providing now request to Aishi to take on this and present this with slides in order to give them a clear overview of Docker.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Arnav, please stop sharing.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, Didi.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Yes, Didi.
Yes. So this is the overview of today's session. Today we'll start Docker from very basic, and I'll mainly cover these two topics. And first of all, I'll tell you what Docker actually is, what problem it solves. Then I'll describe what is a container and what problems does it solve. We'll also look at the container repository, which is like basically is a storage for container. Then we'll see how containers make the development and deployment process much more easier and much more efficient. Next, we'll see the difference between Docker and virtual machine and the difference between Docker image and Docker container. Then I'll explain the basic Docker commands and briefly introduction about ports, container port and the host port. And the third and fourth topic will be described by Arnav. Okay, let's start the session. What is Docker? Docker is a free software developed by an American company which was released in the market in the year 2013 and has become a key tool in the world of IT development. So mainly inside DevOps, there is a tool that we use a lot for solving multiple use cases is known as Docker. Technically, the Docker started just to ship our application and build our things. Through research, it comes to know that almost in all the environments, one can use Docker. Because as I mentioned in the slide that Docker is lightweight, open and secure platform. In the second point, I mentioned that simplify building, shipping and running apps because I have already told that Docker is used to ship our application and build our things. And it also allows users to create independent and isolated environments to launch and deploy their applications. Only due to this kind of nature of Docker, it is very safe and secure to use. Okay, so this is mainly what Docker is and why should you use Docker. And next slide is what is container. Container a way to package application with all the necessary dependencies and configuration. It means mainly a container is a way to package application with everything they need inside of that package, including the dependencies and all the configurations necessary. In the second point, portable artifact easily shared and moved around. So it means that packages are portable just like any other artifact is, and the packages can be like easily shared and moved around between the development team or the development and operation team. The portability of containers plus everything packaged inside in one isolated environment gives it some of the advantages that makes the development and deployment process much more efficient and much more easier. Mainly like container is used to improve and develop the development and the deployment process, and this is the only thing container do. and this is all about container. Okay, and we'll see how container work in sometimes. Next is Docker repositories. As I mentioned in the previous slide that the containers are portable artifact and it is easily shared and moved around. So there must be some kind of storage for those containers so that we can share them and move them around. So the containers live in a container repository. Container repository, basically it's a special type of storage for containers. Now the thing is many companies have their own private repositories, like where they can host or like they can store all the containers, and there is also a public repository for Docker containers, where you can browse or like you can find any application of the container that you want. Okay, now like head over to the browser. Just a minute. Okay, head over to the browser and see how they looks like. First of all, we search for Docker Hub. Docker Hub is a public repository for Docker, and this is the official website of Docker Hub. Click on that. Click on Explore. You can see there are more than 100,000 container images of different applications hosted or stored in the Docker repository. There are so many images. Like here you can see some of the examples, and for every application there is a official Docker container image. So this is the official image of Alpine, like that. Here it is the official image of Ubuntu. Like, see, so many Docker repositories are here. But if you are looking for something else, you can also search here. Like I am searching Jenkins here, and you can see that this is the official image of Jenkins, and there is also some non-official images of container images are also stored here on the same name Jenkins. Here you can find any application image. Okay, now go to the slide back. Now we'll see how containers improved the development process. First, see, before the containers come into the page, how did you develop the applications? When you have a team of developers working on some application, like they have to install of the services on their operating system directly. Okay, like for example, you are developing some JavaScript application, and you need PostgreSQL, and you need Redis for messaging. So every developers in the team need to install the binaries of those services and configure them, and they like need to run them on their local development environment. And depending on which operating system you are using, the installation process will look actually different. Okay, and then you have to follow multiple steps to installation. So like a couple of commands you have to run, or like you have to execute. So there is a chance of something going wrong or error happening actually pretty high. So because why it is high? Because the number of steps required to install the service is huge. Okay, so this process of setting up a new environment is actually be very tedious depending on how complex your application is. Now we see how containers solve some of these problems. With container, you do not have to install any of the services directly on your operating system, because the containers have its own isolated operating system layer. Here in the screen you can see that it's the container, and here you can see that containers have its own isolated operating system layer. This is the layer of operating container. Okay, so you have everything packaged in one isolated environment. So the developers have to go and look for the binary install on machine and download it on local machine. And the downloading step is just one Docker command. Okay, just one Docker command, and you will get all you want, and you all get. Regarding of any operating system you are using, the commands, more specifically the Docker commands, are same for all to start any container. Now, let's say if you have 10 JavaScript application, so you have to run 10 Docker commands, and that's it. It makes the local development environment much more efficient or much more easier than the previous version. Also, you can actually have different versions of the same application running on your local environment without having any conflict. So this is, yes.
Excuse me, any problems you're facing? Okay, I think Oishi, you can continue on this.
Sir, I
Yeah,
am
please.
doubt regarding containers. I'm
Yeah,
still
please,
confused with the concept of container. Like containers carry applications. That is the basic thing.
Yeah.
What do we exactly mean by shipping? Can we compare it to? Wait a minute. I am just getting a call. I will ask you later.
Okay. Sure.
Sure. So this is how the containers play the role to improve the development process. So now let's see how containers improve the deployment process. So same as before the containers come into the page, the development team, means the developers, produce artifact with set of instructions of how to install and configure the artifacts, and with set of instructions of how to install and configure the artifacts on the server. Okay, so for example, you would have a jar file or something similar for your application, and in addition you would have some database or other service, also with some set of instructions how to configure and set it up on the server, as it is shown in the picture. Okay, so the development team will give those artifacts to the operations team, and the operations team handles setting up the environment to deploy those applications only. Okay, so main problem with this kind of approach is you need to configure everything and install directly on the operating system, which we saw in the previous case, that here every services are downloading directly on which operating system you are using. Same problem here.
Can I ask my question now?
Okay, I'll take.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So what do we exactly mean by container? It is something which carries our apps. Is it that?
So let me explain you. What is container? Whenever you go to a shop, for example, to a cake shop, they give the cake packed in a box, right? They don't give you the pear cake. Here, container is the box, and that box helps you to transport you from the cake shop to your house very easily. Now you answer me a simple question of mine. If
Yeah.
there was no box, wouldn't
Yeah.
it have been difficult for you to carry the cake from the
Yeah.
shop to
Yeah.
your home? So
Yes.
containers basically does that. It helps you to move the applications efficiently from one machine to another without any hassle.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Are you clear now?
Yes. Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
we can use the Docker application to access the same application on multiple platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It basically helps you to transport your application, which we are
Build your
going
application
to.
and transport your application.
And
Okay.
can we compare shipping to sending the application to someone?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
You basically know what shipping means, right? In layman terms, a ship carries containers from one port to another, right? Here, Docker does the same thing, but digitally. Am I clear?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Bhaiya. Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay, cool,
Okay.
cool.
Thank you.
Oishakun, you can
Okay.
continue.
So this is the one problem which I'm telling, and another problem that could arise with like this kind of approach is that like some misunderstanding may happen between the development team and the operations team, because everything is textual instructions, and there must be possible, or like there is a high chance where developers like forget to mention any important instruction about configuration, or like maybe operations team misinterprets some of those instructions. But with containers, this process is actually be simplified, because now you have developers team you have developers team and operations team working on one team. Okay, so you have developers team and operations team in one team, and okay, just a second. Okay, let me continue. So with container, here we can see here developers team and operations team are working on one team to package the whole configuration dependencies inside the application, just like we saw. Since it's already encapsulated in a single environment, you don't have to configure any of this directly on your server. Only this you need to do is run a Docker command that pulls the container image that you have stored somewhere in the repository, and like let it run it. Okay, like this is of course the simplified version, and it makes the previous problem much more easier and much more efficient. Okay, so this is how containers works to improve the deployment process. Any doubt till now?
I have one more doubt that you said that the developer and the operations team are in the same team. So,
Yeah.
so what do we exactly mean by same team? Like they will be able to communicate with each other properly, and they won't have any misunderstanding if they are in the same team.
No, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the development team and operations team face various problems, to stage the product, to develop the product, to make sure each and everything is working fine. So they work as a same team known as the DevOps team, which contain the dev team as well as the operations team, to ensure
So,
that the product is very easy to make and to make sure it doesn't have any loopholes.
okay. So from here the DevOps concept starts, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Shall I proceed?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like if I'll go in deep, technically container is layers of stacks of images. As you can see in the image, the container is layers of stack of images on the top of each other. So the base image is mostly the Linux base image, which should be small in size, and most of them are Alpine because that are make sure the containers are small in size. And on the top of the base image we have application image, and above that we have configuration data. Between the application image and base image we have lots of layers of images. Okay, so we'll not go deep in that. Just remember that in between base image and the application image there are lots of layers of images. So before going to the difference between Docker and virtual machine, now we'll see how to use Docker container. First go to the Docker Hub and search for Redis. So this is the Docker official image of Redis. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see so many versions are available here for Redis. And one more thing, because it's a public repository, you do not have to log into it and do not have to provide any like authentication credentials or anything like that. Just started with Docker command without configuring anything to access Docker Hub. So let me tell you one thing, that you need to download Docker desktop in your local machine to run any Docker command. Okay, and then you have to log into it with your Docker ID and password, and then only you can run all the Docker commands in command prompt. Now go to the command prompt. PS. So Docker PS means this command is used to see all the running containers. Okay, so if I hit enter, you can see there is no container available here. Okay, now I have to pull the Redis image from Docker Hub to my local machine. So that's why I need to run a Docker command. So for that the Docker command is docker run Redis. Let's say I want to download the 5.0 version of Redis. Okay, hit enter. Oh, let me tell one thing. Docker run command is used to start a new container, and the Docker ps command is used to see all the running containers. Okay, it takes some time to download. This line, unable to find image Redis 5.0 locally, this line denotes that it go to the Docker Hub and pull it from here. And these layers, these lines denotes that all the layers of images. I already told you guys that this is the container. Container is mainly stack layers of images on the top of each other, and these layers are basically the same. Okay, so the main advantage is that if I want to download the different versions of the same image, let's say I want to download the Redis image of like 6.0 version, so only like different layers are downloaded between two applications. Like if you want to change the version, like only the between these layers, application layer and the base image layer, only these layers are changed. Baki sab same rahega. Okay. Now in the other command prompt, if I write now docker ps, you can see Redis 5.0 is running now. Okay, and I already told that docker ps is used to see all the running containers, and now this Redis 5.0 container is running. Okay, now run the different version of Redis image, like docker run Redis, let's say 6.0 version. It will take some time.
Ma'am, the screen is lagging a bit. So
It's laggy.
yeah, in my PC it's lagging. I don't know about others.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please
No, I think it's fine for me.
I mean, it's fairly visible. Everything is.
can I reshare it?
No,
Okay.
no issues, no issues, no issues.
It is okay though.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, when I run the docker run Redis 6.0 version, here you can see it's written that already exists. Means when you are downloading the 5.0 version of Redis, then these layers are already downloaded. So they, for 6.0, these 3 layers need not to be downloaded. Only these 3 layers are downloaded. That's why when you download the next version of Redis image, the time which takes small, okay, than the previous version. Now I think you all get an idea how container works. Now slowly go to the slide. And see the difference between Docker and virtual machine.
Ma'am, one question.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
When you download, for example, another different version and you have two images that happen to be the same, how does like Docker know that the version of the image that you're using is the same and therefore skips downloading it? Is it like pre-specified by the developer that no changes have occurred between two different versions with regards to a particular image, or is it that in that particular image there's some things that tell you that they're the same or different?
No, it is by default.
As in the developer has mentioned it.
Yes, yes. And like if I wait a minute. If I run now, you can see 2 versions of Redis are running. Okay.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Ma'am, I have one more doubt that after loading the Redis version, first it will show that it's not installed. Then after that, it will automatically load the Redis version.
Flo, I'm just explaining you. This image, Redis 5.0, is not present in his machine. That is the local machine is using. So in case of we use git pull from GitHub, Docker uses Docker pull from Docker Hub. As this image is essential for us, and we don't have this image, so Docker automatically pulls the image from the Docker Hub. Is it clear?
Yeah, yeah.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Now let's see the difference between Docker and virtual machine, because it's very important to run the other commands. So first point is virtualize. Docker virtualizes the applications layer. When you download any Docker image, it actually contains application layer of the operating system and some other application installed on the top of it. And it uses the kernel of the host because it doesn't have its own kernel. On the other hand, virtual machine has applications layer and it has its own operating system kernel. So it virtualizes whole operating system, which means when you download virtual machine image on your host, it doesn't use your host kernel, it puts up its own. And this is the first difference of between the Docker and the virtual machine. Okay, and second one is size. The size of the Docker image are much smaller because they just have to like implement it on one layer, and so the images are usually a couple of megabytes in size, whereas in virtual machine images can be a couple of gigabytes large. In the third point is speed. You can run and start the Docker containers much faster than virtual machine, because every time you start them, they have to put it in operating system kernel and the applications layer on the top of it. Okay. The fourth point is compatibility. You can run virtual machine image on of any OS you are OS means such operating system on any operating system host, but on the other hand, Linux Docker image is not compatible with Windows kernel. This is actually true for Windows version below 10 and also for the older Mac versions. Okay. Now we'll see the difference between Docker image and Docker container, because like mostly people use these two terms interchangeably, but there is a fine difference between Docker image and Docker container. So Docker image is the actual package. Okay, means the application, Linux base, all these packaged together with the configuration and the dependencies, all those things. But the Docker container actually start the application. Like when I pull the Docker image on my local machine and I actually started, so the application inside actually start, and that create the container environment. And one more important thing is Docker container is running. It's always running, but the Docker image is not running. It's an artifact and it can be moved around between the developer team and the operation team, or like developer team. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce some basic Docker commands that could be enough to pull an image locally or start a container, to configure a container, and like even debug a container. Now let's head over to the browser, and here we see the Redis image. Just copy this link, pull the and this link helps to pull the Redis image from the Docker Hub to my laptop. It takes some time. See, the different layers of images are downloading now. Take a couple of minutes. Okay. Once it downloading is done, I can check all the existing images with the Docker images. Okay. Here you can see Redis 5.0, Redis 6.0, and Redis, the latest version which I am downloading now. Okay. So another important aspect of images is that they have versions. For example, if you go back to the Docker Hub, each image that we look up in the Docker Hub have different versions. Here you can see here different versions are available. You can choose whatever the version you want and specify it. Now to this point, we have only worked with images. Okay, so there is no containers involved here. There is no Redis running, so that my application cannot connect with it. These are all images. Okay. Now I have to create container of that Redis image that will make it possible to connect to the Redis application, and like I can do it by running the Redis image. So that's why I have to run the Redis image, and for running the command is docker run Redis, hit enter. This will actually start the image in a container. So as I said before, the container is a running environment of an image. In the difference, I said that the container is a running environment of an image. So now if I write in the another command prompt, because it's running, if I write docker ps command, I'll get all the running Docker containers. Okay, so docker ps command provides us the list of all the running containers. So you see that docker run Redis command is, just wait a minute. This docker run Redis command is used to start the Redis container in the terminal in an attached mode. Now if I in the Docker Hub, if I delete this command container, sorry, I remove it. Now if I write I can see no container is running, like no Redis container is running. So there is an option for docker run command that makes it able or makes possible to run the container in a detached mode. So for that, the command is docker run -d enter. I already told that docker run is used to start a new container, and here -d is specifically mean that in detached mode. Okay. If now I run docker ps, I can see this Redis image again, and here I'll get the container ID. If I check this, the container ID starts with 3327, which is similar here, the 3327. Okay. Now this is how you can start in detached mode. Now for example, if you want to restart a container because some application crashed inside or some error happened, so if you want to restart it, you would need the docker container ID. So docker container ID plays a very important role here. If you restart a container, if you stop a container, you need the docker container ID. So if I need to stop this, I write docker stop and that container ID. sorry. No, it's okay. Actually, my screen is not visible in this side. So here 8 is also present that I'm not visible here. If I run Docker PS, you can see only these two containers are available now because I stopped this Redis container, which container ID starts with 833. Okay, now if I want to we have to write that Docker start and the container ID, hit enter. If I write now Docker PS, you can see that the Redis image with the container ID 83327 is back. So let's say you stop the Docker container ID at the end of the day and you go sleep. So let's stop this again. Okay, now stop and you go to sleep. Come back to the next day and open your laptop and you want to restart the stop container ID. Sorry, that stop container. So you need that container ID. So at the next day, if you run Docker PS, you can't see anything. You can't see the now I am using this, but if you see this at the next day, you can't see these containers. Okay, you can see the blank space here. So if you want to see the command line history, you have to run this command docker ps -a. So docker ps -a command is used to see the list running and stop containers. Okay, if I hit enter, you can see all the containers are here. Okay, here you see the container ID again and you can restart it by writing the command docker start ID. So and it start. Okay. So
one doubt. Not a doubt. May you please explain again that Docker PS -a?
sorry, you are not audible. So, can you please tell?
I said, may you please repeat the Docker PS -a command?
Okay. Docker ps -a command is basically used to see all the list of running and stop containers. Like if you let's say if you stop the Docker container at the end of the day and you go to sleep. Okay, so that's why you have to run the docker stop id container id command. Now I'm not writing here. I already like where. Okay, I'll do it. Docker stop container id. Okay, so it stopped the container and you will go to sleep. Okay, come back to the next day. If you open your laptop and you want to restart the stop container, but that's why you need run docker ps, but at that next day you can't see anything here. The space was blank at that time. That's why you have to see the command line history, and that's why you need to run docker ps -a command. Okay, it will help to see all the previous running containers and with container id, which was the most important thing. So let's run that container again. Now it's running. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay. Now here you have, okay, just wait a minute. Now here you have the latest one, which is Redis 6.2.6. It's the latest version of Redis. Okay, and let's head over to the Docker Hub and select the version. Let's say 4.0 and run Docker run Redis, sorry, 4.0. Hit enter. It will pull the image and start the container right away after it. Mainly Docker run helps to pull the image and start the container, as I already told before. So it does two commands basically in one. So it's Docker pull, then Docker start in one command. So it will take some time. Okay, it's already downloaded. Now if I run Docker ps now, you can see the latest version of Docker, which is 6.2. Like something like 6, right? I have to check. 6.2.6 and the Redis 4.0 is running now. These two are also running, but now we are working with these two, 6.2.6 and 4.0. These two Redises are running now. So now, how do you actually use any container that you just started? So in the output, you can see the port section, which specifies in the port section, which specifies on which port the container is listening to the incoming request. So both containers open the same port, which is Redis, which is what was specified in that image. Here you can see both are in Redis, so the ports are same, 6379. Okay, so ports are also plays a very important role like container ID. I'll tell you why. So how does that actually work and how do you not have conflicts while both are running on the same port? Okay, so to explain that, let's head over to the slide and let me explain the container port and host port first. Okay. As I mentioned before, container is just a virtual environment running on your host, and you can have multiple containers running simultaneously on your host, which is your laptop, PC, whatever you are working with. So, and your laptop has certain ports available that you can open for certain applications. So, how it works? We can see that now. So here you need to create a so-called binding between a port that your laptop or your host machine has and the container. For example, in the first container port, you see container is listening on port 5000. Here you can see container is listening on port 5000 and you find your laptop's port is also 5000 to the containers. Okay. Now you will have conflict if you open to 5000 ports on your host. If you will definitely have conflict. Okay. As you will get a message that the port is already bound or like it's already in use. This kind of some message you can get. However, we can have two containers as you see in the third and second and third containers are both listening and port 3000. Okay, which is absolutely okay as long as you are binding them to different ports from your host machine. So once the port binding between the host and the container is already done, you can actually connect to the running container using the port of the host. So if you head back to the terminal, okay, so if you head back to the terminal, you can see that the containers have their own ports here and they are running on the same one. However, we haven't made any binding between my laptop's port and the container port, and because of that the container is basically unreachable by any application. Okay, so I won't be able to use it now. So the way we actually do that is by specifying the binding of the ports during the run command. So now I am going to check that there is just by Docker PS. Here you can see all the containers are running in mode. So see, both the containers are here. Here now I am using these two only. Both the containers are running now. So now we want to start them using the binding between the host and the container ports. But again, you have two radiuses, so you need to bind them to two different ports. Okay, on my laptop. So the way to do is you do and you specify with -p the port of the host. The p means the port of the host. That's the first one. Okay, let's say I want 6. It doesn't really matter in this case. You take whatever you want and then 639 this port. Okay, which is the container port, and need to write radius, which image you are using or which container. Okay, now in the Docker, another command prompt, if you run Docker ps command. Okay, so here you can see the binding, that the two ports are binding using just one Docker command, which is docker run -p, the port which you are want, and the port of the container and the image name. Okay, just one Docker command. This is the binding of the ports. You can see here. Now it's reachable. You can use it, and this is the only benefit of Docker. If you understand once it, like, it's very easy to use. Okay, so now I'll request Arnab to explain them rest two portions, which is networking up to this my.
Okay, sure. So Ishi, could you please stop sharing with me? Yeah.
Yes, I have a disruption.
So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, Bhaiya.
Yeah, cool. So I told you about token networking. So what is token networking? Let me open the whiteboard. Test for you. I have already Sean, I guess. Have a check. No. So before I dive into networking, let me show you the basic workflow of Docker. Let me show you how Docker works. So this is a doc file which contains the project source code. This points to a doc image and a doc container. My handwriting is very bad, so please ignore it. Both of them are stored in virtual machine, which I guess Oishi explained well. So these basic things now is stored in the Docker Hub, right? And this Docker Hub points to two servers. This is the staging server and this is the production server. These servers are having containers in it. Am I clear? These servers are having containers in it, which in turn are linked to a network. Cool. So this is the basic workflow of Docker. The source code contains the Docker image, which is stored in the Docker container. The source code is staged in Docker Hub, and before staging, it goes on through two processes known as the staging server process and the production server process. The staging server contains various containers, and the production server also contains various containers. And these containers are linked to a network so that you can check it. Now, as you can see in the above diagram, a developer writes a code that stipulates application requirement or for the dependencies in an easy to write Docker file, and this Docker file produces Docker images, right? So whatever dependencies are required for a particular application are present in this particular image. Now Docker containers are nothing but the runtime instance of Docker image. These images are uploaded in the Docker Hub. As we write code and upload in the GitHub, Docker images are stored in Docker Hub. You can also call Docker Hub as the Git repository for Docker images. Docker Hub can contain private or public repositories. In private repositories, it means it's specifically meant for the organization we are using, and public repositories is something which is open to everyone, right? So from public repositories, you can pull your image as well and can upload your own images to the Docker Hub. Then from Docker Hub, various teams such as quality assurance or production teams will pull that image and prepare their own containers. These individual containers now in turn communicate with each other through a platform or a network, and this process, the whole process is known as Docker networking. So you can define Docker networking as a communication passage through which all the isolated containers communicate with each other in various situations to perform the required actions. Okay, now what are the various goals of Docker networking? So why we use Docker networking? First of all, it is for flexibility. Okay, the second point is for scalability. I'll be explaining each of these terms after this. The third point is user friendly. The fourth point is cross platform. Fifth point is decentralized. And the sixth and the final point is support. Cool. So what is flexibility? Docker provides flexibility by enabling any number of applications on various platforms in order to communicate with each other. In Docker, you can enable as much number of applications as you wish. It's up to your wish to enable how much applications would you like to push in Docker Hub. Cool. And what is cross-platform? Cross-platform means Docker can be easily used in various platforms which works across various servers with the help of Docker Swarm clusters. Right? I will be explaining Docker Swarm clusters after it. Now, what is scalability? Scalability is very important, Scalability is something in which you can add the number of instances or delete number of instances. For example, you have n number of instances. After that, you think of something of adding 2 more instances, n plus 2. Docker helps you in adding as many number of instances as you want because it helps you to scale your applications very easily. What is user friendly? Docker makes it easy to automate the deployment process, which Oishi explained. What is decentralized? Docker basically uses a decentralized network which enables the capability to have the applications spread and highly available. In an event that the container or a host is suddenly missing from your pool of resource, you can either bring up an additional resource or pass over to services that is still available. For example, Oishi just told you that when Docker image is not there, we use Docker pull command in order to use it. So that is basically decentralized. And what is support? Docker Files offers out of the box supports. So the ability to use Docker Enterprise Edition, we have the Docker Basic Edition. The Enterprise Edition is for the bigger companies who require Docker at a higher scale. So Enterprise Edition of Docker is there, and get all the functionality very easy and straightforward. And Docker platform, as Oishi showed you various easy commands, it's very easy to use, right? Now, I will be explaining you about CNM, or the Container Network Model. So I'll be showing some diagrams. This is container 1. This is container 2. And this is container 3. Right? They are connected to a network N. Right? And below this, they use a Docker engine. Here is the network driver ND and the IPAM driver. And finally, here lies the network infrastructure, right? So container 1, container 2, and container 3 are in turn connected with a network N, which has Docker engine, some drivers, and network infrastructure. Now, I already told you about this. And now let me tell you a brief about LibNet network. Lib network, so that you can understand the CNM concept very well. Okay. So LibNet network is an open source Docker library which implements all of the key concepts that make up the CNM. Cool. So container network model, what it basically does, it standardizes the steps required to provide networking for containers using simple multiple network drivers. CNM requires a distributed key value store like console to store the network configuration. The CNM has interfaces with IPAM plugin APIs. This IPAM plugin driver we basically use to create and delete IPAM plugin APIs, and which creates or deletes address pools, allocate or deallocate container IP address. Whereas the network driver which we used is used for network plugin APIs to create, delete, or containers from networks. And CNM has mainly built on 5 objects: network controller, the driver, network endpoint, and sandbox. Cool. Now, what is network controller? Basically, I have to go to this slide. What is network container here? You can basically see here, it's a Docker bridge networking. So we are using 3 containers, and these 3 containers are added to a bridge net. Among 3 networks, bridge network is the most common type of network. Okay. And first of all, there is no container inside the operating system, but whenever an operating system is launched, by default they launch in a container called as bridge. And as soon as the container is launched, automatically one wire is connected from the network card to the switch port or bridge port. Then the operating system will automatically send a DHCP and give the IP address and gateway address also. Is it clear what I'm trying to tell? Anybody has any questions till now? Okay. Fine. So now I will go to the network container network model objects. These objects are network controller, driver, network, endpoint, and sandbox. I'm just typing it.
We're really excited to have you all here, and I welcome you to your coding journey. It is a platform that is for all level of coders, starting from beginners to advanced, and you can text me whenever you have some doubts.
I think someone is having microphone on.
So now I'll
Bhaiya, I guess it's Abrajit. Okay. Yeah.
Please ignore my handwriting. It's very bad. I'm writing it all by my hand as I have no stylus here. Yeah, it's network controller, driver, network, endpoint, and sandbox. So, network controller provides the entry point into libnetwork. I already told what libnetwork is. I am explaining it once more. Libnetwork is an open source Docker library which implements all the key concepts that make up the CNM. And CNM is container network model. Okay. The network controller provides the entry point into libnetwork that exposes simple APIs for Docker engine to allocate and manage networks. Since libnetwork supports multiple inbuilt and remote drivers, network controller enables users to attach a particular driver to a given network. And a driver basically owns the network and is responsible for managing the network. The network provides connectivity between a group of endpoints that belong to the same network and isolate it from the rest of them. Now the endpoint is provides a net connectivity for services exposed by the container in a network with other services provided by other containers in the network. And endpoint basically represents a service and not a particular container. So please note it. Endpoint is particularly denoting a service and not a particular container. And what is sandbox? I think everyone is familiar with sandbox. When you open up the laptop, I think sandbox automatically opens. Okay, I'm explaining it. It's sandbox created by users request an endpoint on a network. A sandbox can have multiple endpoints which are attached to different networks representing containers network configuration. The network configuration is basically your IP address, MAC address, routes and DNS, etc. Now, I think I am just done with networking part. And here is what is Docker bridge networking and port mapping. So Docker bridge networking, as I already told you, there's these containers are connected to a bridge network. Okay. And a bridge network uses a software bridge which allows containers connected to the same bridge network to communicate. For example, I and some other guy live in the same town and we are having a bridge between the other towns where two of our more friends live. So we use the bridge to move from that town to this town, right? And this is what bridge network does. It uses the same bridge network, which a Docker file, which is located at the other end of the bridge on the interior and posterior end to communicate with each other. Right? And bridge networks apply to containers running on the same Docker daemon host. Okay. Now you may ask the question that what is Docker daemon, right? Docker daemon is a service that runs on your host operating system. If you're using Windows, then it runs on Windows. If you're using Mac, then it runs on Mac. It currently only runs on Linux because it depends on the number of Linux kernel features, and that's all. And now I will tell you what is kernel, or you can say what is Linux kernel. Wait. The Linux kernel is consists of basically several important parts, It contains the process management, memory management, hardware, device drivers, etc., and others. And the other part of this is what is port mapping. So port mapping is what? Port forwarding, you can also say it, port forwarding or port mapping. I'm just showing you a basic Docker command. As it's mentioned here, Docker container run -p. You can check. -p, it's 8080. It's 8080. That is the host port, and it will run on this container port, right? See, look. This is giving me an error that Docker container run -p8080 gives me an error, and it also suggests me what are the necessary commands I should write. Okay, this is the basic format, which is Docker container run options. Your image name must be there, as I have not used image name. Cool. And now I'm telling about port mapping. Port mapping or port forwarding is an application of network addresses that redirects an application or a communication request from one address and port number combination to another, while the packets of a traversing network gateway. Okay. Now I will explain you what is Docker Compose. First, let me explain you why Docker Compose, right? Then you can have a clear idea what is Docker Compose. For example, everyone is choosing Amazon, right? Amazon or Flipkart. Hello, am I audible, right?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Yeah.
Is everyone familiar with Amazon?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay. Shopping cart. So, why Docker Compose? When we have a single container, we don't need any specific tools to manage containers. We can manage it on ourselves. Okay. But when we have a large number of containers that has been deployed, so managing this large number of containers manually is not at all feasible. So for managing this large number of containers, we have to use a tool which is going to help us manage those containers, to deploy those containers, to scale up those containers. Simply scaling up these containers mean if you want to add some more containers, or if you want to remove some containers, etc., etc. We have to deploy this container and deploy the updates for the containers. Okay. So for every setup required, every orchestration tool, we have Docker Compose, as I told you, taking a simple example of Amazon, which is one of the most popular e-commerce stores across the globe, as you know. So what happens? Amazon is basically deployed again in various services, not just Amazon only, but various multiple services such as Flipkart, Myntra, Ajio, etc., etc. These have, so for example, as an e-commerce store has component server, which allows previous users to log in and new users to sign up. Then they have a new service called catalog, where the users can browse through the entire products, and then they have shopping cart, in which again offered as a service where the users can store their products, or they like to check out, or they have another choice of checking. And there is finally a payment method which is integrated with any of the most popular payment gateways in order to facilitate smooth and best transaction. Okay. Now these services which are looking are deployed separately. They are not at all deployed on a single server, or they are not bundled together. They are not bundled because if any one services has any issue, then the whole system stops working. Okay. If they are deployed on a single server, if the login sign up page is unfunctional or any problem with the login sign up page, then the whole function, that is the product catalog, the shopping cart, and the payment automatically stops working. Right. So they are deployed in another containers, another servers, right? Now, what happens if you have a problem with the payment gateway? I am supposing, then you can log in or sign up. You can visit the Amazon site. You can search for your products. You can add them to the shopping cart. And after when you go to payment, you will face some issues till the developer team doesn't solve the issue. Okay, so we are basically not using a single service, we are using microservices. Okay, and this login and sign up page as a database. For example, me, when I sign up with Amazon, my whole credentials are stored in the database. Whereas when somebody else who has been signed up, when they try to log into Amazon, then their information is fetched from the database. Whereas in product catalog, if you want to visit the product catalog, for example, you were searching for smartphones. Okay, and you go to the search bar and you search smartphones. Now from the database, it is filtered that which result contains smartphones. Then those results are particularly shown to you. And if you like smartphones, you can add them to the shopping cart. And that shopping cart is integrated with the login sign up page. Okay. Your shopping cart is particularly yours and not other shopping cart. And the payment method is when you go, you can have various options such as credit card, debit card, some famous wallets, and net banking as well. And that is already stored in the database. So when you scroll into the orders section, you can check that if you have bought this product on this day and you have paid by this method. And that is basically what it does. So why we use Docker Compose here? So I already explained you that this database, and the idea behind microservices is that some type of applications becomes very easier to build and maintain when they are broken down into smaller pieces that work together. Okay, and becomes much easier to do the entire maintenance, patching up the servers, taking care of maintenance window, updating the servers, and many much more. And it basically benefit of those is various large don't have to manage their workloads. We have a microservice for login sign up, another microservice for catalog section, and a database that separates the other. Okay. So, and by using this Docker Compose, we can connect all the isolated containers as a single service. Okay. Now, let me tell you what single service. This login and sign up page is a microservice. I am denoting as MS. Okay. This one is a microservice. This one is a microservice. This one is a microservice. Each and every microservices are then bundled in Docker Compose. Okay. For example, if you want to stop, you can stop the Docker Compose and the whole website is stopped. For example, it is basically the main MCB of your house, which you turn it on, the whole electricity of the house will flow, whereas if you turn it off, the whole electricity will be gone. And also using Docker Compose, you can connect all the isolated containers as a single service. So Compose makes sure if we want to start the application, we need not to go in each and every component to start the application, because considering I have n number of microservices, I can't start and stop manually. So I simply go to Docker Compose and start and stop. And to be precise, I already told you that Docker Compose acts like the main switch of our house. Is it clear? No.
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay. So now, what is Docker Compose basically? I am just telling you. It is an website. This is PostgreSQL, and this is Redis database. Cool. These are containers. These are containers added to a file known as Docker Compose. Are you getting the figure?
These parts are contained in the container which are like put into the Docker Compose like this.
Yeah. Now I am telling you this. A website and everything. For example, you go to a shop, okay? You bought 3 products. For example, you bought a toothpaste, you bought a chocolate, and you bought a pencil box. Okay. The shopkeeper wraps everything in a packet, in a container, which you can easily hold it and carry it to your home. Okay. Am I clear?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay. So Docker Compose basically used to manage the containers together, and it allows us to make sure we are having the centralized management tool to manage all the containers. In case you want to apply some configuration changes on multiple components on these microservices, and exactly what Docker Compose is. So in basic layman terms, we can say that it is used for running multiple containers as a single service, and each of the containers run in isolation, but they can interact with each other whenever required. And Docker Compose files are basically very easy to write, They are written in a scripting language known as YAML, which is basically a HTML based language that can be easily used without having any kind of parentheses or complex syntaxes involved. Now, data layout is usually very useful in Docker Compose files as it is written in YAML. And another advantage we get is that users can start and stop the microservices present using a single command, which I already discussed earlier, by using Docker Compose files. For example, you can say that if you have an application with an Nginx server and a Redis database, we can create a Docker Compose file that run both these containers as a service without the need to start each one separately. And the multiple advantages we get with Docker Compose is it offers a single host deployment. That means we can run everything on a single piece of hardware. Okay. And all the containers are isolated and simply reduces the threat landscape and offer easier configuration during the YAML scripting, and also offers a high level of feasibility. Okay, and it also makes the code least complex, right? And this is basically Docker Compose. Here it's told about Docker Compose in single container as well as multiple containers. Sorry, I'm sorry. And this figure, as you can check, the right hand figure, it's basically for multi-container applications, and it is basically for single container applications, right? You can have a check that it builds and runs one container at a time, and this defines multi-container app, as I told you, YAML file. You can check. YAML file is very easy to write, which we will show later. And this is basically a figure. And now the most important, as I already discussed with you, what is Docker workflow? I discussed with you at the beginning, and here it is. So to doing a basic demo project, you use workflow with Docker repository. First of all, we create the front end part and the back end part. Okay. After doing it, we commit it to the GitHub. As I know we have already learned from the Git and GitHub section how to push a code to GitHub. After that, we will be doing CI. CI stands for continuous integration, and the tool which we are using is Jenkins. After that, we push our code to Docker repository, then pull it back, and then push it again to Docker Hub. Okay, and thus as a result, it gets created. It's basically a complex factor, so I will not go into such deep, but I will definitely explain you what is MongoDB and how it works, as MongoDB is very essential here. What is Node.js and how it works, what is the difference between MySQL and NoSQL, and what is Jenkins. I will now explain you this. Just have it's basically a very easy one. So what is MongoDB? MongoDB is basically a database or an open source document oriented database, you can tell it. MongoDB is not based on the table like RDBMS, that is Relational Database Management System structure, but it provides a different mechanism for storage. And that's why you can see MongoDB as a NoSQL database. And NoSQL comes here, NoSQL stands for non-relational, and NoSQL databases are basically very useful for working with large sets of distributed data, and MongoDB, the tool which can manage everything you can know. It's basically the most interesting database in today's world. And after that, if you learn about MERN stack and basic front-end part, then you can do it all by yourselves. It's very easy. You can basically do, because if I now try to explain, it will be very lengthy and it is a very complex part, as many of you are not at all accustomed with full stack web development. You will come across as you move further. And what is Node.js? I told you. The Node.js is a server-side programming and is primarily deployed for non-blocking event-driven servers. When we open a React app or any app, or we try to run, they install the node modules first and they run it on localhost. Localhost, if you have checked or if you have gone through, it's localhost 3000, and 3000 is the node. Clear? And it deployed for non-blocking event-driven servers such as traditional websites and backend API services, but was originally designed with real-time push-based architectures in mind. And Node.js brings you event-driven programming to web servers, enabling development on fast web service servers in JavaScript. Developers can create scalable servers without even threading or using a simplified model. And that's all. Now I will go to the what is the difference between MySQL and NoSQL. Okay. So the main difference between MySQL and NoSQL is that SQL is, or MySQL is a relational database management system, RDBMS, and it is non-relational database management system. Okay. MySQL have a fixed static schemes, but they have a dynamic schemes, and the MySQL is not suited for hierarchical data storage, but this NoSQL is very much suited. Even they are the best suited. And MySQL is basically the best suited for complex queries, whereas NoSQL is not. MySQL is vertically scalable, NoSQL is horizontally scalable, and that's all. Now, finally, I'm coming to the end. And what is Jenkins? Jenkins is basically an open source automation tool written in Java with plugins built for CI process, continuous integration. This CI is a midterm of CI/CD, which stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. You will learn further as you level up yourself in the world of cloud computing. And Jenkins is used to build and test your software projects, continuously making it easier for developers to integrate changes and to obtain a fresh build, basically. And Jenkins achieved the CI part, that is continuous integration part, with the help of plugins. Plugins allow it with integration with various DevOps stages and etc. And various advantages of Jenkins. It is an open source tool. It is very easy to install. It's free of cost and it's built in Java, so it's very much scalable and can be used in all platforms. Coming to the final slide, what is the future of Docker? As you know, cloud computing is evolving nowadays. It's evolving at a rapid pace. So, what is the future of Docker? And Docker is the most important and the most basic cloud technology everyone should learn if they are ready to go into the world of cloud computing. It's a very interesting world. I'm telling you. It's very easy, but you should learn the basics of Docker and also Dockerizing some applications, which I cannot show. Now, Docker is the future of virtualization, and you will be stunned to hear that various companies such as Netflix, Spotify, Uber are basically using this Docker, and Docker is growing and evolving more and more, and it's great to see Docker evolving as it is the future. After that, Docker, you will learn about Kubernetes and scaling microservices, which we will talk later. Now, till that's the end of the slide. Thank you for being patient throughout. Any problems? Any issues, any problems you're facing, then you can tell me. I'm done.
Yeah, can I like say that GitHub and Docker are similar in like many aspects? I mean, we
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, Shreyanshi, I already mentioned that for we doing GitHub, it's a cloud-based platform where we deploy our code, where we push our code. GitHub, you can say, is very similar to Docker Hub. Okay. GitHub is the storage place for our codes, whereas Docker Hub is the storage place for Docker images. Any more? Anything more? Shreyansh, are you clear with it, or shall I explain once more?
Yes, I'm clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more questions? If anyone is having any sort of doubt, feel free to unmute and tell what sort of doubts and issues.
Bhaiya, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Actually, as you have told that there is two commands, like one is Docker run command and one is Docker pull command. So what
Yeah.
exactly the difference between them? Because the both are installing the images of that particular like Redis. So like
Okay,
what is mainly the difference between them?
okay, sure. So Docker pull is used particularly for an image, okay, and Docker run is that you are setting up the container full-fledged, and the container uh, uh, contains many things. Uh, Docker image also, and also many other attributes. As so, Docker pull basically pulls an image. It doesn't build a container for you.
Okay.
Okay. Anything more?
Actually, Bhaiya, to make it accessible across other platforms, we need to use the Docker run command to like basically make a container.
You need Docker run command.
Okay, Bhaiya.
Anything more? Anything more? Anyone is having any doubts? No doubts, I think. Oishi,
Yes.
now I request everyone to please switch on the video because it will be very great for me. Everyone, ma'am, not just single. And please be ready to follow us on our social media handles. It will be very great for us.
But yeah, I am having a problem with my camera, so I won't be able to.
Okay, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, it's great to have you guys. So I would request everyone to show a victory symbol so that we can take a screenshot and upload it. Okay, great.
I request everyone to share in your Instagram handle with tag of MSc Kit chapter.
And it would be great to have you guys in MSc.
Don't forget.
Bhaiya, today was the last day for this workshop, but I don't want to end it here. I would like to pursue it further. Like, will there be more workshops?
Yes, I am.
If any other workshops will be there, it will be notified. So
Yeah, and I think there will
follow
be
our Instagram
workshops. And don't. Yes, please.
What about the certificate we are getting about? We have attended all the 4 classes.
Yeah, you would be receiving a certificate. Don't worry, it will be mailed to you, I guess.
Yes, it will be mailed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.